All right, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Happy Friday, and welcome to our Canadian immigration live update. How have you guys been keeping? It's been a while since we were able to join you live. And as you're joining, as per usual, let me know where you're joining from. I am coming to you from Regina, Saskatchewan. I'm Kay Wilson. I'm the lead consultant with Northern Connections Canada Immigration. And if it's your first time joining us live, do let me know as well. We have a couple things to go over today. I shouldn't be too long with you guys, but all right. So I'm seeing St. Lucia, some friends from Jamaica, Trinidad, watching from Florida. Welcome. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining. I'll just give you guys a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Hi, seen some familiar names. Welcome from Nigeria. Welcome. And of course, some folks joining us from Canada, Barbados. Kevin from Trinidad. Welcome. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, watching from the Philippines. All right. Is this your first live? Is this your first time joining us? Let me know. I'm well. I'm doing good. I'm glad it's Friday. Right. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. It's so some of you may know or may not know, in Saskatchewan in particular, it's I think we tend to get really extreme weather conditions. The winters, cold, and the summers are very hot. So it's very hot here. We've been having some very warm temperatures, which we're not complaining about because our summers are not very long either. So we'll take the warm temperatures while they last. All right. I'm not sure. Denise Grape, welcome. All right. So I am going to start with one of the most recent things that were announced this week. So of course there was a cabinet shuffle, and which often happens in Canada every couple of years. So we now have a new minister of immigration, refugees, and citizenship, right? So the portfolio has been passed to a new minister. This happened on Wednesday when the prime minister announced his new cabinet. And so the former minister, Minister Fraser, has now gone to a new portfolio, and now we have Mark Miller. So Mark Miller is now the new immigration minister. He was previously the Minister of Crown and Indigenous Relations. And so now, I'm sure there are a lot of questions. We don't know what he's going to do, right? Nobody knows at this point. But what we do know is that he is a lawyer, right? So he does have a background in law, and he has close relations with the Prime Minister, Minister Trudeau. So we can look to what we have seen announced in earlier in the year, in terms of, we can look at the immigration levels plan, the targets that were set for both this year and the next couple of years as it relates to immigration. So that can give us some pointers into what we can expect to happen, right? I think a lot has been accomplished this year where immigration is concerned. Yes, we do still have quite a bit of backlog of applications, but I think IRCC has accomplished a lot in terms of their mandate and what they had set out to do for this particular year where immigration is concerned, especially considering post-COVID or COVID recovery. So I think they have done a lot in that regard. The former minister had announced plans to hit new heights in terms of newcomers that are coming to Canada, right? As they look to tackle Canada's chronic labor shortage and, of course, our aging population. So I would expect the new minister to spend some time to focus on, getting briefed up. Of course, he'll have to meet with key stakeholders and key ministers, like maybe the deputy minister in that ministry, to get updated on what has been happening, what has been done, what is to be done, and then they can formulate a plan going forward. I think we can also expect maybe to see a new mandate letter. So as we have seen previously, following a major cabinet reshuffle, the prime minister would issue a mandate letter to the new minister that will set out the key policy issues that this minister would need to focus on, right? So I think that's what we can expect next, and that would give us some clear insights into what are the priorities in the short term for him. I think Canada is due an election in another 2 years, so it really will be the short term. So that's what happened this week, and that was pretty major because, of course, the minister will be a key stakeholder where immigration policy is concerned, right? And they have a lot of power where that's concerned. Now, as it relates to express entry, so you would have seen, again, this was a very exciting month where express entry is concerned. So earlier this month, we had quite a bit. In fact, I think we had about 4 back-to-back draws for express entry. Those of you who are not familiar with express entry, if you are outside of Canada, which a lot of you are, and you want to migrate to Canada permanently, then chances are this might be one of the main programs or program types that you want to know about, or that you may want to know about, or to see if you're eligible, right? So express entry is Canada's primary immigration system. And so earlier this month, we've seen our first ever category-based draws. And remember, I think the last live that we did, we talked a bit about this. They planned category-based draws, and it did happen. In fact, 2 draws. I think 2 of the 4 draws that happened earlier this month were category-based draws. So they had an all-program draw, which is basically a draw across the different programs in express entry. So that could be the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trades, the Canadian Experience Class Program, as well as we have provincial nominee program streams also in express entry. So that draw would have spanned all of those categories. We had our first category-based draw, which was a draw for STEM candidates. So essentially what this means is applicants who are in the express entry pool who met the requirements for STEM occupations. So if you report work history in a STEM occupation, and there is a list of those particular occupations or the NOC codes that would be associated with that classification. So if you were in that category and you met the other requirements for the category-based draws, in addition to like the score cutoff, then chances are you'd have been invited in that draw. So that was the first ever category-based draw, and then they followed that up with a healthcare workers draw. So these were the 2 category-based draws that happened. In fact, I think there was a third one, which was a French language draw. So we had a healthcare workers draw, we had a STEM draw, and then there was a French language draw as well. So that particular draw would have been based on those in the pool who had a certain level of proficiency in French. I think it's 7, NCLC 7 in French, and then meeting the other requirements, right? So that's what happened earlier this month where express entry is concerned. And then, of course, like I said, it's been a very exciting and busy month where immigration is concerned. Of course, in between all of this, like throughout the month, we've had quite a bit of PNP draws as well, right? So provincial nominee program draws, those were happening and sprinkled throughout the month with the different provinces. So, and then as a reminder for those who may not know, like with the category-based draws, they they are new, recently introduced, in fact, this year, right? And so what will happen is the government may choose candidates from the express entry pool based on certain categories that they will establish each year. So for this particular year, the priorities where category-based draws are concerned. So these are basically occupation-specific draws, right? So the priorities for 2023, French language proficiency. So if you speak French, if you can learn French, if you have any proficiency in French, like at least to a certain level, of course, there's that chance that you could be selected based on your language skills. If you work in a healthcare occupation as well, so healthcare occupations are a priority. STEM occupations, so those who work in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics occupations. And like I said, with each of these broader categories, there are like specific occupations or knock codes, right? That will give you a further breakdown of what would be included specifically. Then the other priorities, we have trades occupations. So if you work as a tradesperson in any of the skilled trades, maybe a mechanic or, any trades, a carpenter, an electrician, you'll fall in the skilled trades. So trade occupations are also a priority as well for this year. Transport occupations, so those like truck drivers and so on work in transportation. And then, of course, agriculture and agri-food occupations. So these are the priorities where the category-based draws are concerned for this year. And this will change, it's subject to change every year, depending on the labor market information and what the projections are by the government. And then also, you want to be reminded that regardless of having a new minister, we still are guided by Canada's immigration levels plan, right? And so between 2023 to 2025, Canada has a very ambitious target where immigration is concerned. And the history is that Canada has a low population, right? Low birth rate rather. So we have a low birth rate and population is aging. And as a result of that, the solution that the government has come up with is immigration. And Canada has been a country that's been built on immigration for years now. So the target for 2023, 465,000, which is pretty high. So that's for this year. For 2024, it's 485,000. And then for 2025, it's 500,000. So guys, if your goal is to come to Canada, you definitely want to jump on the boat now. I don't suggest waiting because just like you, there are thousands of people who are looking to come, and you see the targets, they're higher than they've ever been. But also, I think from my viewpoint, from what I'm seeing from my end, it's even more competitive, right? So it's more competitive than it has ever been to come to Canada. And so the earlier you can start, the better. And the younger you can start to, the better, right? So, and especially where express entry is concerned. Of course, express entry is not the only immigration program to come to Canada. There are many different programs. There are over 80 different pathways and counting, right, that you can come to Canada. So the eligibility requirements for each person will be different. So what may have worked for a friend or a family member be different for you, right? So each person would have to determine their pathway to come. There are programs that may require job offer, while there are others that may not, right? So the requirements will vary by person. So you would have to determine the best pathway for yourself and then proceed from there. All right. And with that too, I should mention we will be having some webinars upcoming. It's been a while since we've done any, so you'll hear more about that in the coming week. We will tell you more. Some will be for those who are outside Canada, and some will be for those who are inside Canada. Maybe you're inside Canada, you want to convert, from being a temporary resident to being a permanent resident, or whatever the case may be. So you can look out for more information on those webinars that will, as you know, they're usually very packed with information, and those who have attended have benefited greatly. All right, so I want to hear from you guys now. I'll take maybe 2 minutes for questions. I saw some popping up as I went on. So I'll take maybe two minutes for questions, and then we'll have a great weekend. So I see Janine from Trinidad. Okay, so she's saying, I'd love to migrate this year. Really wish I knew about you and your company, as we have been trying since 2021. Yeah, I do get that a lot. I've come across people who have been on their migration journey for years and feel stuck and are not moving. So, and as time goes by, well, for one, you get demotivated, right? Or you start feeling hopeless about the process. You're thinking that maybe it might not work, right? And of course, your eligibility options also start to go down. It just depends on your personal situation. But of course, as you age, the program eligibility, certain programs that you may have been a good candidate for previously, you may no longer be. Just depends. Interesting question. If you want to start a business in Canada, what pathway would be best? It all depends. I couldn't say that there is one, because there are many different. So there are business immigration streams as well. So there are streams for business establishment or acquiring a business or starting a new business. So you could acquire an existing business, you could start a new business. You could come as a self-employed person. It really depends. So self-employed and somebody who is gonna establish a business is two different things. There are many different programs and different requirements as well. So it just depends on the person, and so that will have to be established in an eligibility session, aka a consultation. So the consultation that we do would help to determine which pathway would be best and how to proceed. What documents do you need? How do you go from there? Right? The documents, the process, the requirements, the timelines, the cost, all of those things are usually discussed in the consultation. Do I need to have my credentials assessed and self score before applying for jobs in Canada? It's not required, but I think I would recommend it for sure. Not required, because it just depends on the job that you're getting. Some jobs, depending on the program that the job offer is being made under, you may need it, while others you may not. And it also depends on the country that you're applying from as well. So there are certain requirements that are country specific, as well as you might have requirements that are specific to the job that you're getting and the program in Canada through which the job is being offered to you. All right, so good question. What is the processing? Are you asking about processing times? What is the processing for study permit outside Canada? So the processing times will vary depending on, generally, right? Processing times will depend on where you're applying from. So the country that you're applying from, are you applying from inside Canada or outside Canada? Do I have to have a relative to apply for a Canadian visa? Um, that's a good question. I think a lot of people do believe that you do need to have a relative to visit Canada, but you don't. You don't. No, you don't. The answer is no, you do not have to have a relative, because your purpose, it depends on what your purpose is. Your purpose could be to visit family. It could be for tourism. Maybe you just want to visit Canada, right? Just like you travel anywhere else for tourism purposes. So in that case, if you're coming for tourism, then you would not need to have a family member in Canada. If you're coming to visit family or a friend in Canada and that's your purpose, then that's when you would need a letter of invitation from someone. But outside of that, you would not need that. What is the best option to live and work in Canada? Yeah, so that again is one of those very general questions. It will depend on you, I will say. So I will say it depends, and it depends on you. It will depend on your personal situation, your personal background. As I mentioned before, the pathway for each person, it varies. So it will just depend on your personal situation and how you would. So with Canada, immigration programs are all about eligibility, right? So they will all have eligibility requirements, and it just depends on how you, as a candidate, is able to meet those eligibility requirements. But of course, Canada is one of the I would say one of the primary countries where you can actually migrate on your own without having to be sponsored by anyone, or without. I think most of the people that we currently work with, like our clients, most of them don't even have any relatives in Canada. They have never been to Canada. They don't have anyone in Canada. And they come to Canada, and I can tell you a lot of them, they come and they establish themselves. You think that they've been here all their lives, because they're doing so well for themselves. But no, you don't need to have a relative. And the program that you eventually apply through will just depend on you. All right, I'll just look at one more. One more question. I see a lot coming through. Some of them I may not be able to answer because they're pretty general. Recommendation, study permit past the date. I would say reach out to IRCC. Reach out to IRCC. All right, guys, I think that's it. That is it. I don't think I understand that last of Jamaican family up for migration since September 2020 and is yet to get their embassy date. Not sure. I'm not sure what application you're referring to or which program they applied under. Are they being sponsored or federal skilled worker? What program? And yeah, that's very, very case specific. So I wouldn't be able to comment on that because I wouldn't know enough about the particular situation. All right. All right. I think we'll wrap up now, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. I hope you found some value from our live session. And let me know, do you want us to have these sessions more often and bring guests on as well? Let me know in the comments how you feel about the live. And if you're joining or watching the replay, do comment as well. Have a great weekend, and we will catch up with you guys. Like I said, we will be having some webinars coming up, so watch out for those. And those of you with those specific questions or looking for a specific pathway, definitely I would recommend visiting the whichever platform you're joining us from. Check the links available. Go on our website, nccanadaimmigration.com, and you'll see options on how you can work with us. And you'll also see our consultation options. Typically, to work with us, it starts with an initial consultation, because we have to know how we can help you, right? So it usually starts with an initial consultation, and then from there we will be able to offer assistance. Um, we'll be able to offer assistance depending on the particular situation. So start with a consultation, and then we can help you with options for studying, options for working, options for applying for permanent residency, options for visiting Canada. We do offer employment services as well, but it is on a case by case basis. So we do work with employers in Canada as well, and try to connect them with workers outside Canada. But it's very specific, and it's on a case by case basis, and it's completely driven by the employers and the skill that they're trying to find, right? To skilled workers. So it just depends on them. But all of that will start with an initial consultation, and then from there we're able to assist you. All right, so thank you guys for joining, and have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you next time.